Hello, folks, and good morning. So, I was going to do a kind of similar thing to what I did for Reborn here when it comes to showing how to deal with the Leonard duel using every class in one vision. However, pretty much immediately upon getting into it, came to realize that, yeah, it's actually a lot easier in this version than I recall it being. So let's go ahead and get into it here. So if for some reason you're struggling on Leonard Duel, you're running into the usual complaint that folks will have of, I got here, how am I supposed to beat 1v1 my dudes? I can't possibly do it because I came in as a wizard or archer or, toaster or what have you. Well, let's go ahead and discuss this. First and foremost, this is your first out right here. You can just make it a fight like any other fight. But if you decide to make it a duel, bear in mind you cannot save after making this decision, so no, you cannot get soft-locked here. Anyway, so if you do wind up, going and starting the duel, what can you do? Well, it turns out every class actually has a lot more options than would originally seem obvious. And like in this particular case, I figured going into this that the Warlock would probably have the hardest time. I figured they don't have a massive range advantage. I figured some of their instruments are kind of weird. I was kind of expecting that their auto heal wouldn't be able to out heal Leonard, but sure enough, it turns out the Warlock can absolutely body this guy like it's a joke. Frankly, just about every class that I tried did the same thing. So rather than taking an hour to go through each one piece by piece, I'm going to explain a few mechanics of the fight, show how it can be done with, one or a couple of them, and just kind of explain some general tips for how you can get by it using any class whatsoever. So first and foremost, if you're going for something like a warrior, simply put, just put on some evasive gear, turn on dodge, and then try to hit him with a false strike. Realistically, like in this particular case, I didn't do too much out of the way here, but when it comes to your consumables, you should have a pretty decent stack of at least a handful of cards. Now, these will end up going and dropping commonly enough that you'll more than likely have at least a couple, I would assume, of most of them, okay? Again, I'm just using this assumption here. I haven't really bought that many debuff items. This is just kind of whatever was picked up along the way. So realistically speaking, you probably at least have most of these debuffs on hand to go for an ideal setup and or, potentially something different. Anyway, so let's say we go ahead and we switch him over to the warrior here. What kind of options would he have? Well, essentially the warrior is the weapon specialist, so their options would entirely be about gear. So given what this guy's random selection of stuff that he's been practicing with up to this point, we're just going to go ahead and say okay, he had swords. Actually, as a bit of an interesting thing, with swords being so ubiquitous on so many different classes now, this is actually something that more than likely you probably will have experimented with at least once before, and there's a lot of classes that can make use of one-handed swords. They're definitely serving that role of the common man's weapon at this point. Anyway, so you don't actually need weapon skills, by the way, for any of the strategies I'm going to mention here today. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. So essentially what he's coming in with is 500 points that I forgot to spend, as well as whatever skills he set up to be a half-decent warlock up to this point, as well as whatever I picked up along the way. So this is not going to be like a perfectly set up scenario or anything. There's a lot of different things that you could potentially have at this point. It would just simply be too many options to cover absolutely every single one of them, but either way, we have what we have. So essentially, for a warrior, all he would need is sword, dodgy shield, or you can even just go for spiked shield. Like realistically, if you decide to just cheese it with basically any class, there's no way you avoided getting a spiked shield at this point. Literally, all you gotta do is go down to go get your either reflect magic or reflect damage. You can just switch into a different class to get their particular reflect ability, but essentially, if you double stack the spiked shield as well as reflect damage off the spiked shield, I just double said myself. Sorry, brain's still a little fuzzy. But anyway, if you combine the spiked shield with reflect damage, you'll create a situation where you're going to be very kind of reflective as far as your stuff goes. So you'll be essentially doing 40% return damage, which means that you can more or less out-heal or out-dodge this guy. So something like this, just simply standard evasive setup, put some dodge on yourself, and realistically, you'll just be able to outfight the guy. Put a false strike on there, a lot of his hits rely on consistent damage. and this will be enough to consistently get you through that. Put false flight on him with cards. Put a you could go for the reflect damage strategy if you're feeling like something more consistent, but or I mean boring but consistent. And yeah, dodge on yourself, false strike on him. He doesn't really have anything else. He takes basic attacks most of the time, and basic attacks we can deal with no trouble. Next up would be something like the Archer, which, interestingly enough, he actually still has to respect terrain. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention as far as the Warrior goes, Mighty Impact. So if you have Mighty Impact on hand, all you got to do is repeatedly throw him off the cliff and/or set up a counterattack with that Mighty Strike. Well, Mighty Strike, Mighty Impact, whatever else. You know which one I mean. Sorry, jumping between different versions now will get a little bit confusing. But anyways, this has a knockback. He is not immune to knockback, and that entire map, he can just be knocked off the cliff. So essentially, if you throw him off, he will go and make an entire loop to go reach you. Like if he's within movement and he doesn't have a finisher, he has to go and do the entire loop back through the stairs to reach you, which means you, in many cases, will get multiple attacks off him at the same time. So the Warrior can easily cheese him with just something as simple as that. The Archer, on the other hand, basically tremendous shot to keep him down in that hole as well, along with Leaden. Like, they can just plink from a distance, no trouble whatsoever. That doesn't even require any more explanation. If you have Bash, you're golden. Just run away and kite. There's nothing more to say there. Wizard. Depends on what you've got on hand. So magic-wise, if we go over and take a look, in his particular case, he came in with this stuff. So I had him as a wind wizard. Well, wind and divine. It was doing divine for offense, doing draconic for support, while as warlock, and then he had this other stuff for the purpose of just kind of seeing how he could do with it. I was trying to go for something, kind of stupid, and I also just wanted to test out the kind of limits of how much use you could get out of something like Sky Pillar. Anyway. Put a headwind on him, simple enough. From there, you can just basically plink at a distance. That's pretty much all you got to do there. Like you slow him down, you walk away, and you just watch as he struggles. That's about it. You can do the same dodge strategy with a wizard here as well. If we just go ahead and set up some evasive gear on the wizard here, they're not going to be as dodgy as some of the other ones, nor as tanky, but they still will be able to absolutely obliterate him with debuffs. Anything from something like a Melta here to go for the weaken breach to basically anything that'll slow them down whatsoever. Like as far as what we've got on hand right now, as far as what we can learn and whatnot, there's not going to be too many things. Frostbite. If you can set up a mind build. You can just basically prevent him from ever having a finisher with Frostbite. It takes him a long time to build up that finisher, so essentially just a combination of slow Frostbite as well as whatever damage you prefer, and he can't do a thing about it. So, for example, if you wanted to go for more of a mind-orientated kind of thing, personally, while there are, the spellcasting daggers and things like that, they give you some pretty solid mind bonuses. Actually, who do I have that silver point on? I have that on Canopus at this point. We'll go ahead and give you some knuckles for the time being so that we can make use of that dagger. I'm assuming that folks probably will have figured out that they can actually make good equipment because they're at this point in the game. Well, I say good equipment, but side-grade equipment, and/or they probably ended up getting some of these on accident. But let's say we go over their equipment, we just go ahead and give them a damage-reflecting shield in case he does get close. We go ahead and give him anything that'll boost some mind, since they're primarily going to be staying at a distance. That's just going to be some int bonuses over there. We'll just go for the robe then. And if we want to go for this, we can. But for the time being, this Azure necklace will be good enough, just on account of that luck. So, kind of benefits of this whole thing is just the fact that he's going to be stacking a whole lot of mind. If you put on Spell Strike on top of this, even just at a baseline here, I've seen debuff odds hitting in roughly the 80 to 100% ballpark. So either way, you can suppress him as much as you'd like, especially if you have any of the... Here, let's go ahead and turn on all of these spells here real quick. Let's go ahead and select our cheats. Where do we have all spells? Because yeah, you gotta have cheats activated to have that low-level classic speed scaling effects. Where do we have all spells? Somewhere down here. Should be up here, shouldn't it? Use items and reagent. Where is magic? I know I'm just being brain fuzzy right now. Where are you? I know you're here somewhere. Anyway, yeah. Don't get the 2020 disease. It will make your brain hurt for a while. Anyhow, so there we go. That's that activated. So let's go ahead and talk about the other kinds of spells that they may potentially have access to at this point. So, if you decided to go for air, let's go down the list here. So you've got Headwind, that'll slow them down. Again, you can get this up to 100%. This guy, his starting tarot cards were for speed, and this was before that got buffed, so he basically has essentially a nerfed start. He should have been entirely for speed. So he doesn't have anything special as far as mind stats go, so either way, these stacks alone would be enough to get the job done. Next would be Grace. If he gets close, just gives you that dodge chance. Obviously, you wouldn't have stuff like Typhon available, but tornadoes, dead shots, and things like that. If you get far away enough, dead shots plus extend will get the job done just fine. If you want to go for a lodestone, like if you go wind earth, you can basically set up a dodge and fall strike pretty consistently there. Bulwark for defense just makes his multi-hit switch over to the poison move. It's actually funny that that's consistent on all versions. Same thing, just kind of kite at a distance, though I will say earth has a little bit of a harder time here. Stun Bomb. Stun is obviously always going to be very effective for a guy like this when he's already pretty darn slow. True Strike not going to be too helpful here. Let's see, what's Water got these days? Corrosion will be really solid here if you don't have access to Frostbite. I only mention this because I've seen a few corrosions just showing up in the inventory without actually knowing where they came from, so there's a pretty decent chance that's going to be there. Sidestep isn't going to help you out very much, but again, same thing, just blink at a distance. As far as fire goes, probably going to be one of the easier ones to deal here, especially if you're running, if you're in a weird situation where you've trained up daggers on your wizard and you have access to the Heart Crusher. Essentially, Melta can potentially allow for getting more damage out of that Heart Crusher while also giving yourself a full MP refill, so that's pretty handy there. I mean, you probably don't want to go into the fight with just a knife, but still. Frostbite, really good for shutting this guy down. Solidify is not going to do very much for you here. Pretty standard options. Realistically, Dark Wizards have the easiest time here. So they start off with Fixate. Well, Fixate, no, that's not going to be the one I'm thinking of. Where is it? Wormhole. So Wormhole, if you have access to Wormhole, this is such an easy one-shot win for this particular fight. Mind Build plus Wormhole is 10% damage, and it's going to inflict Leaden. He can't get out of his hole with Leaden, so you can just keep hitting him with those 10%. So that's got to feel like pretty extreme bullshit. You can put slow on him to make that happen even more. So yeah, that's just kind of hilarious. You can put Abyss on him to slow him down even more. Like, Dark is hilarious with the amount of movement options that they have at this point. Let's see, anything else particularly notable? I mean, Decay, he's going to be immune to poison, so that's not really going to help that much. It can inflict Weaken, might be a decent defensive play, but realistically, just at that point, break his legs and fire at a distance. But anyways, you get the idea. They've got access to a lot of debuffs, and they have no trouble landing those debuffs up to 100%. So he's not over-leveled or anything. All of these guys are at 15. I tried to keep everything as kind of low-key as possible. Cleric, I'm not sure this even needs much of an explanation. Just hammer, Mother's Blessing, heal yourself, counterattack, you're done here. I mean, clerics have always been pretty overpowered in One Vision, but like, they absolutely clown on this guy. The only damage that he can get through their defenses here is going to be something along the lines of a finisher. Realistically, they can only do that every now and then, and one Mother's Blessing is enough to completely undo that. So even basic heals in my testing were enough to completely outpace Leonard here. Again, he's basically a knight in name only, and he's set up in a way that you can't really get soft-locked here. So literally just heal and counterattack, and you can't lose. Spellblades, similar situation. HP Infusion just got buffed to the point where it's extremely frustrating when the AI uses it. It's funny because they were basically recruit fodder back in vanilla, and it's kind of created this situation where they're almost the ultimate recruit punishment, or punish at this point. That you go for the recruit, you fail, and they're like, haha, free health. And I'm back to full, baby! It's hilarious, but So yeah, Spellblades are probably the ultimate self-regenerator at this point. So same thing as kind of the warrior over here. You just set up a dodgy build, set up some HP infusion, and then pretty much just go from there. Let's go ahead and see what they actually got going on buff-wise at this point, just to make sure I'm not misspeaking on anything here, because basically in my testing that was enough. But let's see, going down the list. Yeah, we get our dead shots, which obviously that at a distance. Your scathes, which will end up punching past his armor pretty darn well. The burst spells are freaking beautiful at this point. As far as just being able to just shoot and run, just basically gives you spear access without having a spear. It's great. Anyway. So, Grace for additional dodge to make that previous thing work. Hover Draft, in case you just feel like not having to fight whatsoever. Like, Hover Draft is amazing. It's probably one of my favorite spells right now. Let's see, you should have Razorback. Yeah, so Razorback strats on Earth. I'm going to assume if you're dedicated to a particular spell thing, if you have Denim as that thing, you've probably already learned everything that the shop has to carry, in which case you have Razorback. At which point, it just turns into just, you have Spike Skin and you have HP Infusion. You go ahead and maybe stick some Reflect Damage, you go ahead and stick a Spike Shield on there, and you basically just do the Reborn Final Boss strats with a Dragon. So, do that. It's boring, but it works and it's funny. Let's see, Electrify for doubling TP. Could be useful for a finisher spammer. Same thing for the True Strike here, since he does actually have a decent bit of dodge, depending on what equipment he decides to come with. Let's see, we've got Purify. That's not really going to help you out too much here. I mean, it's a nice, consistent, like, heal over time, I guess. But yeah. Anyway, I always feel like Purify should be like an AoE regeneration, but that'd be broken as hell. I just wish there was a way for a crappier regeneration, like it only regenerates 2 HP or something. I want Purify to suck again. Anyway. So yeah, same thing with the burst spells. Like, they're cheap, they're powerful, they do the job. Let's see, you got your Soul Sparks, so you basically have Mighty Strike that takes a little bit longer to set up. So you can do the same old throw the guy off the cliff strats while still doing the damage with this guy. And additionally, if you end up setting it up for a counter, like, you do the spell, you set up for a counterattack, he does the counter, throws him off, next turn you follow up with a burst spell, targeting the edge of the cliff and then hitting him below it. Yeah, you can just double hit him that way. So that's fun too. He doesn't get the Melt though, so that's kind of whatever. What's Ice got these days? Winter Siege, great for going and doing... sorry, nose is acting funny now, of course it will. Anyway, great for getting around his rampart there. Nothing really too much from Solidify, but same thing, dodge, outfight, whatever else. He can't counter a burst spell, as it were. As far as divine stuff goes, what do they have these days? Haste, of course they do. Dispel, which won't really do much here. I mean, honestly, Haste plus Halo would be enough to, again, get the job done. What do you got for these ones? Lancet Charge, okay, so long-range support on that. They do get Shadowfax, which of course they do. For some reason, I was thinking that they had, like, Drain Power or something, which... I mean, if they had access to Drain Power, that'd be hilarious. At that point, it would just be advanced health steal. It's like steal somebody's entire TP bar and then go instantly restore all your health. That'd be pretty bullshit. Anyway. Point being, you get the idea. They got the weapons, they got the debuffs, they got the dodges. So yeah, make that happen. Pretty much every spell category can get the job done. Ye old dodgy strats will definitely carry the day here. Or if you just want to go ahead and tank the guy, that'll do the job too. Just going full heavy gear will definitely get the job done here. If you're going full tank mode, especially if you're going for like Spike Shield and stuff like that, essentially this will give you enough passive damage to passive damage and overall damage threshold to kind of keep you pretty well solid for most of it. You can basically out-heal any damage that he does at this point. So if we have those 500 points or whatever else to spend, where's HP Infusion at? I don't know how many points this is. I feel like it was like 300 or something. I don't know. Anyway, we just put Infusion on there, and yeah, you're off to the races at that point. Okay. Let's see. What other weapons do they have? Because I keep going for swords. I feel like we should be going for something more interesting. It's just whatever he happens to have on hand. Honestly, daggers might be the better option there. Maybe even Cypher Shard, just for the purpose of speed. Actually, I've been really appreciating the Cypher Shard, just as sort of being a nice kind of parrying dagger until you get the parrying dagger. That might be why they look the same. But just that one weight and having access to dagger moves is pretty handy in a lot of cases. It's not as good as some of the other spell daggers, but, you know. Still, it's just a convenient thing to have. Alright, what else? Like if we wanted to go spears, we can get extra mind bonuses off of that. Not going to help us much, you know, on the whole debuff front, considering that's not really their deal, but still. Alright. Oh yeah, I forgot they have hammers at this point. I mean, hell, you might as well go hammers too. That'll definitely punch through his defenses a little bit better. If you want to prevent him from ever actually getting his finisher, you just go 1 HKs on it. Just kind of keep carving that down. I mean, 2 H... would 2 HKs be a good idea here? I just kind of figure with 2 HKs, you're kind of giving up a lot of defense for that, but it would be additional offense, so... I guess who knows. Your mileage will vary depending on your particular situation, but either way. TP removal plus being a tank, like, he can't actually kill you like this with just his basic attacks. So, as always, you know, Spellblade, Runefencer, Valkyrie, shit's overpowered. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the Knight. Just like the previous ones, they've got a whole chunk and load of defense. Basically can just completely out-tank their damage, so not really too much to say there. You just go full tank mode. They have that hidden additional damage threshold, so they'll have a far easier time. I forget, do they have access to... I feel like they do have Field Alch 1. So yeah, if you... More than likely, like, again, I'm assuming, based on my inventory here, I'm assuming that yours might look something similar, that this is just the kind of stuff that I picked up along the way. So I'm going to assume that you maybe have some Mending Seeds on hand. In my testing, it typically only took like 1 or 2 Mending Seeds to completely outfight the guy because he cannot heal. So, you know. So there's that. Weapon-wise, would probably be worth going for something like the Silverhawk. So, actually, that's worth noting here. So, heavy shield for getting that stun effect, as well as a slowing axe. Anything that can use an axe... can slow him down, and he can be slowed down to the point of getting double turns by using dual wield. So actually, that's what we're going to cover next for the Berserker. I'm going to skip over the TK for just a second, though you get the general idea with the TK. You open... Actually, no. Brief covering with the TK. Go heavy axe. Heavy slowing axe, that is. Open up with a basic magic leaf. Hit him with a health steal. Then hit him with a power steal, and then hit him with the... the terrifying impact to guarantee breach, and then just hit him with a finisher from there. They should be able to outfight this guy pretty consistently. They've got a good amount of bulk on them. If you're using a slowing axe, Terenius will be able to outspeed him, and that actually gets us over to the Berserker here. I need a sip of coffee real quick. All right, so Berserker's fascinating. So I'm gonna assume you have dual wield if you're rocking Berserker, but check this out. So if you have double slowing axes, all you got to do is start yourself off with a True Strike buff. Go ahead and give yourself double Silverhawks, and then just stack that slowing bullshit. And yeah, you just run up and smack him at this point. So go for, if you don't want to do the setup beforehand, you can go for something like a Sallet to help improve your odds of actually hitting. Ideally, would just go for some basic armor here. But either way, double Silverhawks was really, really, really solid here in my personal experience. I'm sure there's probably, you know, some kind of upgrades, like the upgrade to the Tabar Zen that I didn't have at this point, that would do the job better. But I was really surprised to see that you actually could get double turns with the Berserker using Silverhawks. It actually slowed him down enough to the point that this actually became viable. So either way, that's just kind of fun. Swordmaster, same old dodgy stuff, except you start off with multiples of all of your different buff item or buffs stacking up at the same time. You get your dodge and strengthen and stuff like that at the same time. You get your preempts, you get your avoidances and whatnot. Swordmaster had no trouble whatsoever here. They did want to rely on their Harvest Dance a little bit for passive healing, but yeah. Any number of these things seem to work just fine. Weapon-wise, you get access to whatever swords you'd like. I will say 2 HKs in their particular case were pretty solid when I was testing. Kept one-handed swords on there for the purpose of defense. I actually didn't mention that earlier. If you have defense of any kind on there, or if you have one-handed swords, keep one-handed swords on your skill list to give yourself a little bit of extra armor versus his sword attacks. But what you want to do is put on some reflect damage there. Just go ahead and start off with a 2 HK. Go for a side-graded sword there, and you can more or less just do the same old outspeeding him thing. Set up some dodges through your dances, and then yeah, just it is very officially a luck-reliant strat, but it'll do the job. You can get avoidance very high with just some basic equipment here. 2 HK typically gets through his defenses decently enough to the point that you should be able to kill him before he kills you, so fairly simple there. Dragoon, just like all the other fighters, you can either set up for evasive and then just use their kind of natural bulk to tank whatever hits actually do get through, and or just use a healing seed to get yourself back up to more or less full. But additionally, if you want to go for some heavier weapons on them, that can work just fine as well. Tank plus heavy sword actually was what I preferred using on these guys. Actually, totally didn't realize they could use 2 HKs at this point. Actually, that's probably worth using. Dragoon plus 2 HK could be pretty legit there, not only for the crits, so your free knockbacks, but also for the purpose of just making sure that he doesn't get a finisher, because that is, again, his primary threat. You can potentially go for side-graded stabs and hope to get parries there. You can also do the old spear and shield type situation. But either way, would probably say 2 HK plus heavy armor, just go for the samurai build, would probably work out just fine here. Actually, if we go for this, go for the parry bonus off the salad, that probably would help out decently well here. Anyway, so Dragoon also has access to the burst spells, so if we go over to those, we see they have their scathes and stuff like that, so that also allows you to attack without getting counterattacked, so that's a good way to get a little bit of extra damage in without taking any chip damage in return. Ninjas can just run away and kite and use whatever one of their tools to hit him just fine. Their ninja magic spells will hit him pretty decently. You can hit him with ranged attacks, can just kite the entire time, no big deal. Rogues, sword, evasive equipment, just full evasion set, just out-dodge him. That's really about it. No trouble whatsoever with this one. The reason I went for sword is, again, just because they had it on hand. One thing that is worth noting, though, is one of the theories when this was being kind of theory crafted as an idea was that, oh, you know, the rogue would have to kind of go for that big coup de grace, go for that big backstab. They have a really hard time actually reaching his back, even when going and using a shield to repeatedly throw him off a cliff and stuff. Like, if you ever want to get additional speed with the rogue, just shield bash him off the cliff. You'll be getting back to your double turns in no time. But honestly, just fighting a direct 1v1 and using the same old accuracy buffs as before shouldn't be a problem for you. Similar setup with the Tamer. They, again, just go for full evasive gear there. For the Necromancer, I generally found it was... here, let's go ahead and double-check their spell access to see if there was something that I missed. But generally, slowing them down, hitting them with Harriman seemed to be the best way to go. So we go over to their spells. Let's go down over here. Start at the very bottom, because of course, we're not going to have stasis just yet, but we will have access to Wormhole. So basically, this is going to be the easiest strat right here. Set up for Mind, and then just go ahead and go for Wormhole. Give them a a Toxic Crossbow to give them that Mind bonus. A Assassin Crossbow, I should say. Combine that with whatever other Mind bonuses you'd prefer. Put this Wormhole on there. Just have them take their near guaranteed odds of trapping this guy in the hole. It'll leaden them, it'll do 10% damage, and then all the other follow-up turns, you then can go use your TP to go hit them with Araman in order to do a little bit more consistent damage there. That's all you gotta do. Simple enough. Easy peasy. Alright. So, we'll actually go ahead and... Actually, let's go ahead and get rid of those spells real quick. Let's go over to this thing, select which ones, get rid of the spells. I don't want to have any of that cheating nonsense on here. Wherever it is down here, I know there's a yes somewhere. There you are. I'll go ahead and disable that. Alright. And we'll go ahead and exit this out real quick and restart it. So that we can go get all of that stuff cleared out of the system memory, because I don't want to mess up... Well, actually, I'm not going to be saving this one, because I'm already later in the save file. Whatever. Okay. Anyway. So, hopefully you get the idea. Every class has a ton of different options available to them, but personally, I thought the Warlock was the funniest. Because while their odds of hitting are fairly low, the fact that they're able to abuse this guy so thoroughly is just really funny to me. So that's what we're going to be looking at right here. So I went for Warlock on mine. Again, I expected to have to rebuild something. I didn't expect him to be just fine as he was. So again, he was going for offensive Divine and then support Wind. So he's doing that as well as running an instrument. So I'll put this stuff away. Go ahead and get this started. Have a little bit more coffee. Okay. And again, this isn't like the absolute minimum level, but like one level above minimum level. It's close enough. So here's how I have them set up. Again, instrument combination of the Sallet and Vest, just for a bit of accuracy, a bit of evasion. Instruments, Draconic for support stuff. We get their Auglight for damage. Not anything too crazy on ranks. Didn't exactly like grind these guys up to any crazy degree. Parry, because parrying with a guitar is hilarious to me. Distill Life and Distill Remedy, because I found it really handy to heal on off turns. And then we just go ahead and move on this way. So we're going to go ahead and get the leaf. Thank you kindly. Pop that sucker on there. And then we wait for the abuse to start. So, as you'll see right here, he has to respect the terrain. So we're going to go ahead and move over here. We're just going to go ahead and put on a little bit of a hover draft. Just kind of fly our way up to the side of the wall here. And then we'll just kind of start showing the various things that you can use to go and abuse this guy. See, Draconics are hilarious. So we're not going to be able to hit him with this, but as you can see, we're actually doing surprisingly decent damage with this. But Draconics are really funny, because they have access to Agony already. And Agony is a thing that will essentially do the amount of health that you are missing in damage, based entirely on how close it is to the middle of your bar. The reason that he's picked those two pieces of equipment that he's wearing right now is that it's the highest health boost that he can currently get with the stuff that he's got, meaning that if at any point he takes a finisher, he effectively can go take off half this guy's health bar. Again, this was just a convenient setup that I just found interesting, but at any point he can just go ahead and start off with Sky Pillar and do the same amount of damage. This guy's got a lot of health, but he also can't really do anything. Unlike we later see in Reborn there, he's actually not going to try to get out of range, so we're just going to go ahead and keep spamming this. Yeah, it's 57% odds, but also who cares? We, functionally speaking, can do whatever the hell we want, because he's just going to kind of wander around like a headless chicken. Which I've had the misfortune of seeing this week, but anyway, that's a whole other story. Anyway... So yeah, if you decide to go 1v1 the guy, you can definitely just abuse Draconics to get him within range to be finished off with Agony. Man, this is the worst luck I've ever seen with this thing. It's effectively the boss-killing spell, just like a Demi in Final Fantasy, well, whenever it decides to be. Just wait for him to get close. There we go, he's going to hop down. And we're going to move over here, and we're going to go for that Headwind again. Or Sky Pillar, I should say. Yeah, Sky Pillar also is supposed to root somebody in place, but he can't be rooted, so meh. Anyway, it'll keep taking a third off of his health bar, which is pretty beefy, so you just kind of keep spamming this until he's within range to be finished off. Now, one thing that's really funny, though, is you can also throw items at him. And one thing that I didn't realize is that you can actually do something like this. So let's go ahead and go over here. Let's go ahead and throw an item. And technically speaking, you can cause him to be deceased in the middle of the fight. So we're just going to throw the Death March at him. So Death March Poison is something that you're supposed to use for silver transfers. It's a utility item that One Vision added that allows you to remove lives off from units, but it turns out that the AI actually does have a lives count. It's just hidden for some reason. So he is currently deceased. I mean, he might as well be, but it's just kind of funny to me. Anyway, while we're going ahead and doing that, we might as well slow him down because he's being a little bit annoying with all of this running around. So this is completely not built for Mind. He's already at 57% odds to hit. If we put on Spell Strike, actually, which I really should be doing that now that I think about it. Why haven't I done that? Let's go ahead and go over to our cards. Let's go ahead and get that Spell Strike on there. Where are you? I love how all this time later, I still don't quite remember which one does what, because it's different every time. So, at this point, I'm still just staring at the top left of the screen, like, where does it say Spell Strike? Let's remember it at that point. Alright, but yeah, this will get that Sky Pillar up to 100%. So we'll go ahead and do that, because why not? And there we go. Hit with a debuff of 30% damage, as it were. It's kind of the inverse Reborn, I suppose. We'll go ahead and slow him down while we're out there. Just go ahead and throw out one of these. Actually, no, wait. Let's go ahead and throw Hover Draft on ourselves, because I want to finish him off with a finisher. So we'll go ahead and throw that on there for the moment. Wait for him to get a little closer. Build up a little MP. There we go. He's going to get a little closer. He's going to throw out his 100 damage or so. Alright. Actually, you know... Okay, we'll throw out one more Sky Pillar here. Just kind of continue to abuse this poor bastard. I say poor, he's kind of an asshole. But anyway, so we go over there. Our flight unfortunately went away. And the funny part is you can hit him with regular spells and things. They'll do okay damage, like his aura will do 48 in this case. But we're not really going to necessarily bother with that. Let's go ahead and see about... do we want True Strike Nudge? Yeah, we might as well. So we'll just go ahead and use some acrobatics here. We'll set ourselves up with a flight next round. If you're using Distill MP here, you can just go and repeatedly kind of auto-charge your MP to make the stuff go a little bit faster. We're going to eat a Magic Leaf instead, take a couple of turns to charge, or if you're running a Spellbook build, you can definitely stack for Mind while also having functionally infinite MP at the same time using that. Anyway, what do we need for Agony at this point? Only 20, so we should be able to hover draft, or yeah, we're going to hover draft our way down there. We're going to go ahead and go for the finisher. Let's go this way. We're going to let him hit us once with his finisher, and then we're going to finish him off with the Agony. There we go. Let's go this way. Let's go ahead and hit him with the finisher that I'm forgetting the location of. Go ahead and hit him for more than the basic spells we're doing. Well, more than the draconic spells we're doing anyway. With that one there, he'll go ahead and hit us with the finisher. Or I guess just hit us with a crit. Why not? That actually ends up lining up perfectly, almost exactly half, so a bit of an unfortunate crit for him. I never wanted this, he says, as he's about to end this man's whole career. And so there we go. We take our guaranteed 159 damage. So, anyway, Warlock can absolutely body this guy. So yeah, it's funny times. It's funny times. So that's about that. That's all I have time for today. I just thought this was amusing. So y'all have yourselves a good one. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.